Where did this kind of start from as far as getting this idea, into the ether?
Sure. So. Okay. I'll take them. Why don't you start? I'll take them.
Okay. So I wrote a script that was based on a character that was her grandmother, actually, my wife's grandmother, who's 92 years old at the time and had survived 10 kids and a bullet wound from the Japanese occupation in the Philippines. So I just think she's a fascinating person, and I wrote a script kind of around things that she really does, and didn't really know if she could actually act in it or be interested in acting in it. I mean, she's in good health for that age, but was, had some health problems and was in the hospital just a couple months before, and approached her about it, and she was down to do it. So that was her first time acting, and it really makes the film what it is,
I love that gap in age, obviously, between the characters. There's so much life that's been lived and that she can impart. And I love the circumstance. Where did you kind of come up with the idea of just this putting people together in a weird place and it being kind of awkward? And I loved how eerie it felt watching.
Oh, thanks. I want to let Anna speak to the specific casting, but my idea kind of started with a Sam Shepard short story where the guy I think of as Sam Shepard in the movie is stranded at this roadside motel in Indiana, and there's the snowstorm, and there's no rooms, no rooms anywhere in town, and he meets an ex-lover, I guess, and she's like, you can come stay in my room, and it ends right there. Mm-hmm. So we don't know what happens. And I thought, well, what would happen if we continued that story with like a completely different cast of characters? And it kind of came to mind from that. Her grandmother is such an amazing person, and thinking about her in that role, and then someone else that Anna here also helped me cast, and I'll let her speak to that.
Sure. So Magic, the young woman in the story, that's actually my cousin, my little cousin, who is an aspiring actor. So we sort of thought, okay, this is they have a great chemistry anyway, grandma and granddaughter. And we just thought it would be a great role for her to play. So it's interesting.
Where's that motel? Where'd you find the motel?
The motel's in Carlsbad, California, which is San Diego County, kind of, I guess, the northern end of San Diego County. And and just speaking to that too about the Magic character, the younger woman in the film, I thought it was cool too that she doesn't maybe necessarily come off as looking Filipina, and then she speaks Tagalog in the movie. So it's kind of like an inside, there's something about her that is interesting that we know, and she's connected to this woman through that language somehow. So there's little bits of things of tidbits that kind of build on the character that I think make it interesting because of who the people really are.
Yeah, no, definitely. To jump outside of film, I'd love to, just knowing your story, I'd love to ask you, what made you jump into film, going, from the law world into that? I feel like there's so much time you have to put into that, to jump out of that into this world, into this realm. What was that catalyst? I mean, you were early 30s when you did this.
Yeah. Thanks for knowing that. I was I was a civil rights lawyer. I wasn't like one of those lawyers that hated my job, which is most of my law school class, but, just wasn't doing what I wanted to do, like my dream of being a filmmaker, being an artist. And I didn't know much about filmmaking or film school, but I knew I needed film school. Like some people don't. I knew nothing, so I did. And I saw Spike Lee give a lecture in West Virginia, where I'm from, and he said he went to NYU. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to apply to NYU, and I applied to that school and no other school. And you have to make a film for your application. And I got a camera at Target, and I didn't know any actors, so I acted in this myself, and it was just a short film about a young lawyer who was nervous for court, me. And I showed it I took the camera back, got my money back, because I wasn't, cameras are expensive. And I showed my film to a friend to get a critique, and she's like, it's terrible. Wow. So I had to buy the camera again, reshoot the whole thing, and submitted that as my application, and I was lucky enough to get in. And then I'm like, oh, how am I going to pay for this? I already have all this debt from undergrad and law school, and now this, and the most expensive, university in the nation. And then I get a letter from NYU saying I have a full scholarship. So I'm like, oh, I got to do this. And and then I go to NYU, and I ended up working for Spike Lee. So
teaching assistant, not just working for him. Yeah, you were part of his class.
Yeah, I was part of his class, and I was kind of his secretary at NYU. I mean, I was his secretary at NYU. I made his appointments with the students, and he's very generous with office hours. He could just be, oh, I'm Spike Lee, and I'll, this will be my title, and never show up. He's there. He's there as much as any of the professors, and he really watches your film, reads your script, gives you notes. So, I worked with him there. So that was an awesome kind of, bookend to my, this is how I found out about it, and then going to work for him. And he actually gave me a grant to make my first movie, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, the feature.
Yeah, I have a feature documentary called Cliffside, which takes place in my hometown in West Virginia, and that premiered at South by Southwest, and that was the one that Spike awarded me the grant to make. And that was the thing that kind of got me started, and that was my thesis film too.
Yeah, I saw it ended up on Sundance Channel. That's where I caught it.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful doc. Another person I want to just throw out there, because he's one of my favorite interviews that I've had. Ira Sachs is someone I really love. What's that work relationship, friendship, getting to know Ira? I think he's one of the better people out there.
Oh, he's awesome. That's so cool that you know him. I think he's such an underrated filmmaker.
Yes.
And a lot of people, even that know film, I'm like, Ira Sachs, and they're like, but Ira was my writing professor at NYU, and he's the one who really pushed me to be revelatory in my writing. And he's like, if you're not feeling embarrassed about your script, that the world will see it and it'll reveal something about who you are, then you're not doing your job as a writer. So he's the one who really pushed me into that. And of course all of his films are so self-revelatory, and he's the master at that.
So cool. As far as this idea, is there any hopes to expand it? Any chance to see it in a different form? Maybe not feature, because I could see you diving into different, series of films, even not just revolving around just these two characters.
I'll let her speak to that.
So, right after we did the film, my grandma told us, I want to go back to the Philippines and die there. Essentially, she's very dramatic about how she speaks. So, of course, we thought, what a great idea for another short film. So we filmed one more short with her about her wanting to go back to the Philippines and spend her last years there, and that's actually in post-production right now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we'll see how that goes.
No.
Yeah. Sorry.
He totally wants to be involved. I get it. You've created a film on us. That's awesome. John, I'd love to know, as far as your writing, how has being able to write on a personal level impacted your writing as a whole? Because, Cliffside was, that's your home now, your wife's family. Being a personal writer, does that help you engage into it? What really, because the material is extremely strong and powerful to watch.
Oh,
is it the same for you as writing it?
Well, okay, the way I'm thinking about that question is, So I came out of film school just thinking that I could only write my material that was based on my personal experience. And if I go outside of that, then, you know, that's kind of a faux pas. And since then, I've kind of learned to maybe combine the two a little bit. I mean, for example, with Ang Motel or with Tagulan, the next film with my wife's family, who is, you know, from the Philippines, that's a culture outside of mine. But things that are, you know, maybe commonplace, normal, not exciting for them, I'm like, wow, so you put all this food on a banana leaf and you eat it with your hands, this is beautiful, you know, and things like that they think, you know, who cares? We do that all the time. I find fascinating, and I'm thinking, like, more people than me will find fascinating. Maybe I should include this in a film. Or, you know, her grandmother recording the rosary and then listening to it back. You know, things like that, little details that they kind of grew up with and maybe take for granted, I think are fascinating. So it's kind of an outsider and insider perspective in a way.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What made you submit to Tallgrass? What was it about this festival? Did you read about it somewhere, or is it just something you wanted to try something maybe regionally?
So my connection to Tallgrass is funny. I don't know if you know Tyler Emerson. Everybody does.
Yeah. Okay.
Tyler was a lawyer for a producer in LA that I was working with. We was an investor in my film, and we were in a way on opposite ends of the table. You know, him trying to make sure his client's money is safe and going to the right place, and there's going to be a movie happening, and kind of negotiating the deal with me. And through that, we became friends. And Tyler was, for years and years and years, had told me about Tallgrass. And of course, you know, I know it's like a top 50 festival from Movie Maker, and it's just an incredible festival. But I've never been here firsthand. So this was my opportunity after hearing about it for many, many years, and I have been so impressed. I mean, this is a smaller city and a smaller scale than South by Southwest, but the production value is just as high. Like I think the quality of you know, the parties, the events, the roundtables, and the films. I mean, my film block was as good as anything I'd seen anywhere at Sundance or wherever. So I'm really honored to be here. And, you know, I watch all these movies and I'm like, oh, should I be here? These are really, really good. But yeah, I'm really impressed with this festival.
So cool. Do you think you are a better filmmaker than you are a lawyer? I'm going to throw a question out there like that for you.
Yeah, but, you know, it's funny. The thing I think about when you say that is, as a lawyer, anytime I screwed up or anytime, you know, from law school to practicing law, I could always tell my ego, oh, well, I'm really a filmmaker. You know, so it's okay, I screwed up this case or that brief or that word is wrong or that, you know, I lost this case or whatever. I'm really a filmmaker, you know, so it's fine. But now I'm like, you know, I get a bad review or, you know, whatever it is, and I'm like, oh, this is me completely putting myself out there. And there's, you know, but that's what art is, I guess, and that's part of what you sign up for. So, yeah, that's what I think about when you say that. But hopefully I'm a better filmmaker.
I definitely think what I've seen I've liked, so you're definitely doing well. But John, thank you for the chat. Thank you for bringing the family here. I think that's so important to be able to experience Tallgrass in person is a whole nother thing, like you said, because of the way it's handled and run, and obviously it's a friendly place. So being able to bring your family, I think, is a really special thing. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. This was awesome. I really appreciate it.